Things you need to know before you buy Need for Speed Payback. Need for Speed is coming back after a 2-year hiatus. After an underwhelming attempt at a reboot in 2015, the series is going back to what it knows best: fast-paced action racing. It's fair to say, however, that there hasn't been really a truly good Need for Speed game in years. Need for Speed Rivals was admittedly an enjoyable experience, but the series just hasn't been able to hit top gear since 2012's Most Wanted. With the upcoming Payback, EA and developers Ghost Games are looking to change that. And from what we've seen so far, it definitely looks like they're headed in the right direction. In this feature, we're going to take a look at 15 things that have us quite excited about Need for Speed Payback. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Open World. Need for Speed as we know it today is arguably at its best when it's set in an open world environment, and the upcoming Payback seems to know that fact very well. The latest entry in the series is going to be an open world game. In fact, this is going to be the biggest open world setting in the series to date. There are going to be 4 distinct areas in the map, and if Ghost Games can deliver an open world that isn't lifeless or big just for the sake of being big like so many others out there, then we could be in for something special in Need for Speed Payback. Varied locations. An open world setting, of course, can't be very interesting if it features one-note environments with little to no variation. That, however, won't be the case in Need for Speed Payback. As we've already mentioned, Fortuna Valley will consist of 4 different regions within the larger map, and locations will vary across a number of environments, from mountains and canyons to cities and deserts and everything in between. Events. Of course, it'll be no fun to just wander around environments in your car if you didn't have actually anything to do. Fortunately, it looks like there'll be plenty of that in this open world. Need for Speed Payback will feature a number of activities for you to take part in called events, as well as other side activities that will entail obtaining collectibles, among other things. All in all, there will be over 400 such points of interest in the entire game. It remains to be seen whether it's a matter of quality as well as quantity, but for now, things are looking good. Day and night cycle. For the first time ever in the Need for Speed series, Payback will also feature a 24-hour day and night cycle. What's interesting, though, is that the time of day will also have an impact on the activities you take part in terms of things like traffic density, collectibles available for collecting, as well as how active the police are, which of course brings us to our next point. Cop chases. Police chases have long been one of the defining characteristics of the Need for Speed franchise, which is why it was so disappointing to see them excluded from 2015's game. They are, though, making a comeback this year with Payback. And combined with the game's open world and day and night cycle, as well as the razor-sharp focus on illegal street racing, police chases are definitely going to be one of the highlights this year, if they're done right, that is. Action racing. True to the traditional style of the franchise, Need for Speed Payback will be all about action. While recent games such as Forza Motorsport and Project Cars have contributed significantly towards making the racing simulation genre what it is today, Payback will be less about simulation and more about action. Players, in fact, will be rewarded for driving extremely fast and using dangerous maneuvers, so expect a lot of stunts, drifting, tailgating, and of course, making your opponents crash and burn. Inspired by Fast and Furious. It really is all about the action in Need for Speed Payback, with cop chases and heists and what have you. So much so, in fact, that it has very clearly been heavily inspired by action movies such as Fast and Furious. The developers have a vision for what they want the game to be. They want it to make you feel like an action movie hero. There is, of course, the danger that they might be going for style over substance with such an approach, so hopefully Ghost Games will know how to strike the right balance. 3 playable characters. When you're driving around the open world, running from cops, and taking part in a variety of events, you won't just be doing it as a single character. Need for Speed Payback will let you play as 3 different people: Tyler Morgan, Mac, and Jesse. What's more, each of these 3 will have their own unique areas of specializations and different driving styles, being the racer, the showman, and the wheelman, respectively. Narrative setup. The stories of these 3 characters will obviously intertwine. Need for Speed Payback's narrative will focus on the story of these 3 characters as they attempt to take down the House, a cartel operating in the Fortune Valley area. A story is probably among the last things a racing game needs, so it's interesting to see Payback going with such a narrative-focused approach. Hopefully the writers over at Ghost Games will have done a good enough job for this to be more than just a mere novelty. Car customization. Car customization is of course a major aspect of any game based around driving, and so it will be in Need for Speed Payback as well. Players will be able to customize any and every aspect of the rides, from hoods and the paint job to the wheels, the lights, and even things as minor as the wing mirrors or the license plates. So far, it seems like the customization tools will be quite vast with a variety of options. Whether or not that will actually be the case in the game itself is something that remains to be seen. Car classes. The customization mechanics of Need for Speed Payback also speak to another major mechanic: car classes. Based on these classes, all vehicles will have areas of specialization, thanks to which they will be more adept to take on certain types of races than other cars of different classes. Building up your own garage with different kinds of cars should, as a result, be interesting if this mechanic has any actual depth to it. Hopefully, it will. This risk-reward mechanic promised to be a unique and interesting new mechanic in Need for Speed Payback. Players will be able to place risk on extra objectives that can be taken on during races and events, placed in the form of upfront cash lump sums. At the end of the race, while losing these side risks can prove to be costly, winning them instead will mean big cash rewards, which you will then be able to use for upgrades and customizations. This risk-reward mechanic promises to be an interesting one and no doubt has us intrigued. Support for Xbox One X and PS4 Pro. Need for Speed Payback will utilize the extra power provided by the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. In an interview with GameSpot, the game's producer Marcus Nilsson stated that, yes, we are taking advantage of them. Both of those platforms will be supported. Offline single player. One of the biggest issues with 2015's Need for Speed was probably the fact that it required players to be always online. And it seems like developers Ghost Games have taken all of that criticism into account. Need for Speed Payback's single-player component will not require players to have an internet connection, so if you're looking to buy the game for solo play rather than multiplayer, this is definitely some good news. Deluxe Edition. When